So here's a concept that I think can open up a lot of windows of different perspectives. I'm going to be talking today about the idea of prestige, what it means, why we as humans are so drawn to it, why we compare ourselves to others, and like what you can do to not be focused on these things and instead try and focus on what is more beneficial to you. But why things are kind of so focused on abusing human psychology in order to keep us hooked. This is what I'm going to be talking about today in today's episode. My name is Matthew. Welcome back to the 365 podcast. I make an episode every single day for 365 days. Today is episode 144, I believe. So welcome. Welcome if you're new here or if you've already watched a lot of episodes. Welcome. I appreciate you for being here. Let's get right into the weeds of it. So prestige. The definition of prestige is essentially respect or admiration that you get for a perceived achievement. So, in the official definition, actually, prestige comes from a Latin word which means illusion. And basically, the modern definition of it is to imply that it's an illusion of some big achievement that is giving this ideal of prestige that a lot of people respect this person for something they didn't do, but it's just the illusion of it. It's kind of implied in the definition. Of course, I'll get back to this later, which is important for the content we'll be talking about later in this show. But I think prestige can also be real. Like, it can absolutely be merited. You do something because it gives you respect, it gives you a reputation, and it elevates you in society. And it can be a real thing. It doesn't have to be the illusion of it, but you see that it will be. You see that it is very prevalent that it is actually the illusion of it. But we as humans, we are drawn to prestige. We are drawn to conquering, let's say. And basically, I think another important way to look at prestige is basically to say you will put yourself in vulnerable situations, in difficult situations, in situations that not a lot of people will go through, not necessarily because you're trying to be a good person, just because you're trying to compete and you're trying to earn the respect of them, that if things go wrong, you'll be more likely to be saved, and the other people that didn't put the extra work in, go the extra mile to make something happen, didn't, and they won't get saved when things go wrong, when ish hits the fan. So prestige, the example of prestige that was given in a book that I'm reading, and I'll talk about that book as well. The example of it was basically these birds, and in groups, these birds, it's like a lot of power dynamics. The stronger male birds purposefully go and sit and make their nests in more vulnerable areas where they're more likely to be attacked by predators, not because they're trying to save everyone else, but they're trying to gain prestige. They're trying to gain the respect of the other people in the flock, that if some invasion happens and some bad thing happens, or there's a shortage of food or something like that, they'll be prioritized for it. So it is like this little bit of like a selfish aspect to it, that you're doing it, the other people are still, the other birds in this case, are still benefiting from it because, they don't have to go and sit in that vulnerable area, or they don't have to go days without food. They can be comfy, and these other birds are voluntarily suffering, not because they care about the other birds in the group, but because they know that they're playing the long game and it will benefit them to have this level of respect as a warrior, someone that takes risks in the long run when things go wrong. And we as humans are very strikingly similar. This example came from a book that I'm reading called Super Stimulated by Nicholas Brenborg. I need to pronounce that right. It's a Danish guy. And he's talking, and the book's about completely just what we consume and what we do, and how the vast majority of what we do are purposefully abusing our deep human psychology to cause us to be addicted to these things. So it can be in food making people fat because they're making them addicted. That was probably the biggest portion of the book. It can be about porn. It can be about drugs. It can be about social media. It can be about status, the pursuit of status, and that's where the prestige aspect of it comes in, and I'm going to kind of hone in on that. But it's actually been a very, very good book, and I'm not even done yet. There's actually going to be a couple more chapters I'm going to be reading that I might maybe talk about tomorrow. when I finish and when I kind of have these ideas more formulated. But the example that he gives specifically relating to prestige is related to social media. How on social media you see the best of people's lives, you see all that goes well, you very rarely see anything bad. So it causes the comparisonitis because fundamentally we as humans have deep rooted psychological needs to feel a level of prestige and honor and respect among others. So we want to get to that level, and social media is causing us to compare us ourselves to people that are already at that level, but this is 0.1% of people. You're not there yet. That's okay that you're not there yet. But what social media shows you is only like the good stuff and only the best of the best, and it causes you to kind of skew your perception of reality a little bit, and it causes you to feel, feel depressed, feel angry, feel bitter, resentment, whatever things, because you're not at that level yet. But like it's okay that you're not at that level yet. But social media makes you feel these feelings because because social media companies, they want to keep you online as long as possible. So to make you feel feelings of anger and bitterness will obviously help towards that, because obviously, you know how it is. If you get in a political discussion and you watch a political post and you disagree with it, so you comment some angry thing, social media, whether it's on Instagram or TikTok or X, will pick up that you comment on it. They don't care what it made you feel. They care that you continue to interact on the platform and be on the platform for longer. So they're gonna keep giving you that type of stuff. And that's why we have so much division perpetuated by social media. But with regards to this idea of prestige, we're all comparing ourselves, and it's become this thing where we constantly we just compare ourselves to people that are not even in our echelon. They might be, they might be millionaires and billionaires, but they're, in their 60s, and or maybe, I don't know, in a good case, they're in their 40s, where they worked to get there and they had a different life path, and your life path is going to be completely different to theirs. But you're comparing yourself to them because you're seeing them online. You want to be like that, and these feelings are perpetuated and slowly built up in you. And it becomes this cycle where then you see the bad statistics where depression and mental illness continues to grow in Generation Z because of the amount of people on social media and the amount of comparisonitis there is on social media, abusing this idea of the pursuit of prestige. That is a big fundamental issue with social medias. That's why I personally keep them deleted. I only have YouTube because I upload these podcasts. So, subscribe if you haven't yet, because I only upload on YouTube. I also upload on Spotify. You can follow there as well. But I don't really, it's not really a social media like Instagram or TikTok is. So I like to keep those deleted because I know just how bad it can get when you fall into those rabbit holes. It's not only just the infinite scrolling, which is super bad for your attention span, but it is also comparing yourself to people that are way better than you. And then, of course, for women, it's even worse because they're comparing beauty standards to, again, the top 0.1% of women who, again, optimize for the best lighting, the best makeup, probably plastic surgery, but they don't see that. And that's why self-harm has gone up among young girls. That's why depression has gone up among young girls and young guys in Generation Z, and probably also, no, it's definitely going into Generation Alpha as well, these issues, because they're just comparing themselves to people that are unreasonably better than them. Maybe you can get there one day, but you should be slowly climbing and slowly being focused on yourself, what you can do, instead of comparing yourself and trying to aspire to be someone so up there that it actually kind of comes crashing down on you and makes you feel more bitter than it does inspired. Sometimes that is the case. People on social media, I appreciate a guy like Tony Robbins, for example, because he's genuinely trying to help people. He's trying to bring people to a better state. But people can absolutely look at him the wrong way as well and say, this guy is a billionaire. He runs 100 companies. He's an island on Fiji, and he's a slide in his house. And it's like, you can look at that and be like, how am I ever supposed to get there? The idea is, hopefully, you can look at what he's doing and try and copy that and mimic that to try and create something for yourself. But again, you're not there yet, and he's lived a completely different life to you, and then social media skews that to try and bring it all together to keep you watching and to keep you angry and bitter as to why you're not successful yet. It's all about that deep human need for prestige, for respect, for admiration. And so as a result, we compare ourselves to people that have these things, but we don't see the bad sides of them. because that's how social media is. And as a result, we're just kind of sitting here and wasting our time hating and wasting our time being angry instead of actually going out and pursuing what we need to pursue. So, prestige is something that fundamentally we all look for. And because, well, as humans in the past, we've conquered nations, we've gone and fought in wars. And I think an important psychological point of that is that a lot of it is absolutely fake. Absolutely. If I were to say a blanket statement that 90% of what you see online is fake, that's probably realistic. Like, that's probably not so far-fetched. We know that about 90% of comments you see online are bots. So what's to say that every other post is something fake as well? I'm not necessarily just saying AI. I'm meaning like people portraying a version of themselves that aren't real, a version of their life that isn't real, only the good parts, not the bad parts. Whereas, someone who is truly prestigious, someone truly that actually has that level of respect, goes through the good and the bad. The bird that is risking his life sitting in that vulnerable position, he might get eaten. And then he gets eaten and, well, there's no prestige because you're dead, right? But he's taking that risk because if he doesn't get eaten, the respect he will have among the other members of the flock is worth that risk. And we as humans, we do the same thing. We will maybe help other people. We will look to be noble, and perhaps this is where the illusion aspect of the initial definition of prestige comes in. It comes back into the fray. There's a lot of people, I'm sure. They donate money to charity. They have a lot of money, right? So they help other people. They don't help other people because of just the goodness of their heart. I wish that was true, but they help other people because they know it will positively impact their reputation, their social status. People will look at them as this noble person that is donating money to a good cause, or they show up and they hand food to homeless people or something like that. Politics is the perfect example of this game where where maybe politicians look like, some of them, not all of them, some of them look blatantly corrupt, but some of them are trying to make the illusion that they are good people, and at the end of the day they are helping people. So I think that's a positive thing, but their internal motivations are much more sinister and much more complex than just, oh, I'm a good person so I want to help these people. No, it's because they know that it will help them in the race, in trying to win the people's vote, because it will paint them as this, respectful, humble, noble person that cares about the people, right? Which is never really the case at the end of the day, but they try. And this is where the illusion kind of comes back in, that prestige can absolutely be illusion, but it can absolutely be real. Like you're still helping people, right? In theory, if you're helping people and you have money and you're using that money to help people, you can have the best of both worlds. I think that's possible. You can have the respect of people, but also internally feel fulfilled because you are doing it for the good, and the respect of others is just secondary effect. But I think with prestige, it can go way too far. Whether it be you comparing yourself to other people, whether it be a situation where someone is trying to famous the populace by pretending like they're someone they're not, for social status, whether it be people risking their lives for social status and to be placed on a higher level of the social hierarchy. I think we all as humans fall into some level of prestige seeking, of respect seeking. I think, me personally, as I'm talking about this topic, I think I absolutely do that. I think I absolutely try to be a person that is impactful to the people around me. And is it internally also a selfish thing? Maybe, right? I try and formulate relationships with people and set the foundations for relationships with people that I think will be successful, with people that I think will make it big. It's because I care about them. I appreciate them as friends, but also at the same time there is this kind of bigger picture type of thing looming in the back of my head that I can also advance if I'm aligned, and if I have alliances with people who I also think will advance, if they do end up advancing, if my predictions are right about certain people. So, is it a level of selfishness with me as well? Maybe. I think there's always that level. But I think with the problem with prestige and comparing yourselves to other people, and risking your lives and risking everything just to have that level of respect. I think, as with every other problem in this world and every other thing, it can be solved by looking at the Bible, by looking at godliness and godly principles. To say, don't give to the poor because you want to be respected by other people and you want to climb this social hierarchy or whatever. Give to the poor because God tells you that you should help the vulnerable and you should serve the people that are less fortunate and help them get out of their situation and be caring to them, and give them a drink when they're thirsty, give them food when they're hungry. Do it because God tells you to, not because you have this deeper underlying motive to achieve prestige among the people watching you do it. So I can give an example here. There are people, right, that are rich. They have a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars. They give, and there are people that give to charity that post it. They post it all the time, all over social media. I gave this, and I am for this cause, and I donated this and that. Because internally, sure, they're doing a good thing, and it doesn't take away from the good thing, but the internal motivations kind of put a little bit of poison into the authenticity of doing that good thing. Whereas there's another rich person who donates to charity all the time, probably even more than the person that parades it around social media, but they don't tell anyone. They don't say it out loud. So they're not in it for prestige. They are definitely more favored in the kingdom of God, for sure. I would say that would make a lot of sense, because they are truly doing it because they want to help the people. They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and they're not parading it around for that prestige, for that respect of others and recognition from other people. The second you start comparing yourself to others and looking towards others for praise and for recognition is where you're going to completely fall short, because it's not always going to be there. You have to be able to internally be self-confident and find ways to be happy within yourself, to be proud. I mean, although pride can sometimes go too far, as you know, but be proud of yourself for the work you've already done and for what you're improving at and working towards, rather than being on social media comparing yourself to all these famous people that are super easily accessible and parading stuff online because they're purposefully trying to make people jealous, right? And they're trying to be divisive and provocative on purpose so that they can get views. And then the social media companies continue to push it because they know that it does actually get views, and then you, the consumer, are the one that suffers. As I referenced the book earlier, it's kind of how it is. The companies running all of these operations want it for profit. The book talks about how it's for profit, how it's optimizing for profit, but I actually think that they're being a little bit generous. Nicholas Brenborg, I think he's being a little bit generous with how corrupt these companies are, like tobacco companies, social media companies, other drug companies, pornography websites, and all of the companies, and even all the individual people that are involved, and food companies, of course, as well. I think it's to make the population weak. It's not necessarily just for money, although the money is nice, and of course they benefit from it, the people over there running these things. But I think it is to make the population weak in some level. You're comparing yourself to someone whose goals are so impossible to achieve. So, like, then when you achieve something good, but it's just not as good as what you've seen this other person achieve, it's not going to mean anything to you. So you're just hindering yourself completely. Whereas if you're not comparing yourself to other people, if you're off social media, if you're not having that type of influence in your mind, if you're not focused on prestige being your primary thing and respect and reputation being your primary reason you do things, you will achieve a goal, and it's a good goal, and you'll rejoice, you'll appreciate it, and you'll be able to move forward and build that momentum and get that escape velocity, because you're going to be feeling motivated and powerful because you achieved that thing. Sure, in comparison to the guy above you, it's nothing, but comparing yourself to the guy above you is just going to leave you under a lot of pressure. It's going to leave you stressed, overly stressed, more stressed than you need to be, and it's going to leave you just looking at the wrong things. So don't seek prestige, seek God. Seek Jesus Christ and follow his teaching. Because if you do good to people because God tells you to do good to people, and it's a good thing to do good to other people, then that is going to motivate you in an even better way than if you're doing good to people just because you have this ulterior motive, being this prestige that you want to go and achieve. So do good to do good, right? Help others to help others. And be a motivation and inspiration to the people around you, to be a motivation and inspiration to them. Not because you have this underlying motive to rise to power and reach that level of prestige and get to the top. I understand that it is deep human psychology, and sometimes we can't really control these feelings. But if you put it at God's feet, if you let God handle it, it's the same theme with every other sin. Humans seem to have a tendency to fall into sin, but it's going against our emotions and psychology to obey God and not obey our feelings that will truly help us live a greater life on earth and in the life to come. So I think this idea of seeking this reputation and respect and prestige and all this is kind of linked as well. That if you give it to God and you go against your internal psychology, you do good truly to do good because it's a beneficial thing for the world and for the good of the world, and you learn to care about that more than to care about yourself, you're going to do very well for yourself. Because I think, I'm going to just quote the Bible, he who is your master, let him be your servant. Jesus, words of Jesus Christ, which is to say, he that is great among you, let him be your servant. It's to say, if you're going to be successful, serve others, help others. Don't help them because you know that you're going to be successful. There is this, this hidden power of the universe that you're probably going to stay stuck because God knows your heart. But if you slowly go against those feelings, pursue godliness day after day after day, I think if you start to move to serving others, to helping people, not for the prestige of it, but for just the fact that it is good to help others, then perhaps God will come and reward you with that success just as a secondary thing. I think that is definitely a hidden law of some sort. I put it as God's rewarding you, but it could just be like some other power that is like it is just, like the karma scale or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's dumb. It's dumb. But like the way that it makes the most sense to me to explain is like you're going against your own feelings, you're obeying God, so God will reward you, ask and you shall receive. That makes absolutely the most sense as a way to explain why if you're helping others but there is an ulterior motive, you're never really going to reach the ulterior motive because God knows your heart, or help others because you want to help others, so then God will give you that thing anyway. This is a thing that we see every day in every other aspect of life, in every other sin that we're going through, right? So if you leave it at God's feet and you obey him and you follow his teaching and you expand your knowledge of the word, then God will reward you with those very things that you want because you showed faith to him and you put your faith in God over those things that you want. In this case, being that prestige and being that social status. So it involves not comparing yourself to others, doing good just for the purpose of doing good, and giving it to God, and truly continuing to grind and work hard and develop yourself to being better every day, not for this high level of social status, but for the internal knowledge that you're becoming a better person every day. That is truly more valuable than any level of praise that you get from any other person on this planet. That is why so many people are depressed, so many people want to kill themselves, because they're unable to be satisfied with who they are, because all they're seeing is this standard that is so much higher than where they're at, and they feel shamed because of that. But you don't have to feel ashamed, because we all have different paths, we all move at different speeds in different directions, so it's okay to not be at the exact same level that this guy on social media is at. I can say from my own experience, this podcast will probably get 10 views if at the most, if even, right? I'm a guy that hasn't really achieved that much in the way of success. I have a few stories, I have a few things that maybe will perhaps help me reach that level one day, but I'm not there. I'm probably pretty similar to where you're at. You might even be at a better stage than where I'm at, to be completely honest. So I'm here telling you these things from my perspective so that you don't have to be comparing yourself to other people. That for the most part, there is not a standard. We all move in different directions. If you can be confident in yourself, and also, of course, give it to God and lay it at His feet and find faith, like suicide won't even be on the table. Depression and feeling sad won't even be on the table because you'll just be so fired up, ready. The small wins will matter even more to you, and you won't have this kind of psychological standard that is not really real. It's all fabricated by social media to keep you online and to keep you engaged and to keep you watching people who are not actually going to help you in any way, just to waste time. So, like, you see a guy like, I Show Speed get famous just for playing video games, being an idiot on the internet. It's easy to look at him and compare yourself to him and be like, well, why can't I do that? Right? Why does he have to get famous and I'm trying these good things and I'm not getting there? Or you can say, he has his trajectory, his trajectory, I have mine. Maybe it's a bigger plan that is much slower and much more patient rather than the catapult to the top. I think that's personally where I'm at, but I think there's a thing to say and there's an important point to be made when it comes to what all of you guys are dealing with as well. We're all on different paths. So my message, ultimate message, talking about this idea of prestige and why we go and pursue it. Being internally confident in yourself and satisfied with yourself and the knowledge of the fact that you are continuing to grow every day is way more fulfilling than any praise that anyone else can ever give you, any prestige you can ever get, any respect you can ever garner. Because you can be at the top, but not love yourself. And that is catastrophic. But if you are at the bottom and you appreciate yourself, then, well, even if you don't have material success yet, perhaps you'll get there one day, and even if you don't, you'll still live a happier life, a more fulfilling life, because you were able to accept yourself, rather than offsetting all of these things to a higher social standard, popularity, and whatever else that prestige may give you if that's what your underlying goals are. So being confident in yourself is way better than comparing yourself to others and pursuing prestige because, well, being confident in yourself, no one can stop you, really, at that point. If you really have that knowledge that no one can stop you, you will make it very far. And as with everything, trust in God. Leave it up to Him. If you really look at the godly teaching, it is the fact that prestige is probably something you should try to avoid. Because it's similar to the idea of money. You know the quote, the love of money is the root of all evil, from 1 Timothy, Paul's letter. But popularity and fame and status, all of this really encapsulates what prestige is. It falls under that category. If you make that your God, if you put those desires above your belief in Christ and you put those desires above your faith, then it is only going to lead you down a dark path. And maybe you make it, but you're not going to be fulfilled. It's going to be empty and it's going to be pretty bad. So put God first, and don't let money replace God. Don't let prestige replace God. Put God first, trust in yourself and be self-confident, and stop comparing yourself to other people. So thank you for being here. I know it's easier said than done because, again, you have deep psychological things that you must overcome. It takes time. You're not going to wake up one day and say, oh, let's go, right? Let's go do this. I'm the best. No one can compete with me. No, that's not how it works, right? You have to continue to build that self-confidence so that hopefully at some point we can start moving these statistics in a better direction instead of more and more young men and women self-harming themselves or being in depression or anxiety. We can move people to a more positive direction. And starting by releasing yourself from the desire of this social status, preferably by deleting social media entirely and stopping the consumption of content like that, will really help. Whether it's from a female perspective and you're comparing yourself based on looks, or if it's a male perspective, it can also be based on looks. For example of like gym and steroids, that is actually like the next chapter of the book, Super Simulated, that I'm going to be reading, and I imagine it will probably relate this idea to prestige and social media to people doing steroids and having a good looking body. So a lot of men are moving to it, but like that's obviously going to destroy your health in the long run. So it's probably preferred to just delete social media. There are many reasons you should probably delete social media, but this comparison thing is for sure one of them. So don't let the pursuit of respect from other people replace what is the most important in your life, being God, Jesus Christ, and your own perception of who you are. Don't let that be changed and skewed because of social influence. Let that be developed truly in your own mind and continue to strive to do better, to be a better person every day. And I believe that you will do very well for yourself if you do these things and you release yourself of the desire for this social status. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope you truly learned something. If you're still here, I really do appreciate you. Leave your support by leaving a like and subscribing on YouTube and following on Spotify if you haven't yet. Prestige, man. It's an interesting topic. And after I've read that book, I'm not done yet, but after I've read that chapter kind of highlighting it more, it's definitely something that I think about, and I have to make sure I think about it a little bit more to come to certain conclusions as to what I want to do with my life as well. But I think as of now, that is where my belief lies with this idea of prestige, and that is what I would say with regards to pursuing that and making that your life goal rather than so many other things that can be so much more fulfilling than the respect and love of other people. But unfortunately, you see the extremes of it in the world where people pursue power and that power becomes something uncontrollable. It's the oldest trick in the book, it's the oldest tale. So just be weary and conscious in yourself that you're doing the good to do the good, not because you want some other social status thing or some other deeper thing. You're doing the good to do the good because God wants you to do the good, and it fulfills you to know that other people are benefiting from your good. So that is what I would end you. That is what I will end this episode off on. Apologies for the misspeaking. I'm still working on myself as a person, as a creator, as a podcaster, as a guy that's able to speak and talk about these ideas. I hope that I was able to speak on this idea and this topic in a way that resonates with you in some level. You might not agree with me on everything, but that's okay. I think the overarching fact is that there is a level where you should be humble, but it should not be this illusion of humility. It should be real humility so that you can really be satisfied in yourself rather than extrapolating your satisfaction onto the opinions of other people. It can get deeper and deeper and deeper, but I will leave you on that for now. So thank you for watching this episode of the 365 podcast, and I will see you tomorrow for the next one.